And we are live. All right. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today on the. Uh, Thank you for joining us today on the very first episode of the African Integrated Agricultural Network podcast. And with me today, I have a very phenomenal special guest. I have a phenomenal special guest. Trust me, um, Mr. Ademola. He is an amazing person. I met him on African Masterclass, and we've never really met in person. But I just said, "Sir, please, I would like to interview you in my podcast because I see that you have over 2 decades of experience in agriculture, and I want African youth to see agriculture as a viable means for growth, for development." And he was like, "Oh, sure, 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 I'll come." And here we are today, just hosting him on our very first episode. And I'm super excited about that. And so before we just get right into it, I would like to, let my audience know who we have today so that you have to pay rapt attention to what he has to say about agriculture. Mr. Gani Ademola is the Chief Executive Officer of Greater Eredo Investment Limited. He is the lead. He is the lead and the social enterprise that is dedicated to transforming agriculture industry in Africa through innovation, technology, and sustainable practice. With over 10 years of experience in agribusiness management, he has a strong passion for food system, value chain, and cooperative development. He has successfully established Agri-Trial Powered Technology Trade Center as a localized central hub where smallholder agricultural business operators can access a wide range of services and resources and market opportunity, which is truly amazing. Uh, he is also the co-founder of TradeTech Business Solutions Limited, an aquaculture company that provides production, training across the value chain, and additionally, he is the founding president of Feden Cooperative Limited, a platform that fast tracks food and agricultural value chain development. He's also he also has proven track record in strategic partnership, overseeing operations, performance, and driving growth and impact. With a standing, I can't say standing ovation, but with a resounding ovation, let's welcome Mr. Ademola. Thank
Thank
you so
you,
much.
thank you,
Thank you,
thank
thank
you.
you, thank you. And guys, see, this is one thing I want you to also know about Mr. Ademola. He's not just the only person in his family that is also into agriculture. His beloved daughter as well, Busola, she's also into agriculture. That's to tell you how passionate they are about agriculture. So we'll delve right into the very first question for our interaction today. Uh, so my very first question to you, sir, is what role do you see agriculture playing in Nigerian economy, and how do you see its potential as a catalyst for sustainable economic growth?
Thank you very much for having me once again. I'm glad to be here. When it comes to agriculture, I'm always in, like I said earlier. Um, Agriculture, majorly, I will call it a way of life because
Mm,
without food, there is no life. So basically,
yes,
agriculture plays a pivotal role in any
mm,
economy.
true.
Nigerian economy specifically, agriculture has been an age-long developmental platform for growing the economy. Oh, it's just that over the years, the various governments have neglected agriculture to the background.
Mm,
However, now that the focus is shifting back to agriculture, agriculture can play a very significant role in developing the economy of a nation.
true.
Already, we are aware that agriculture in Nigeria is contributing about 22% to the GDP, which is
Wow.
very significant. And the major practitioners of agriculture are majorly smallholder farmers. And you
Yes.
have, according to Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, you have 40.2 agricultural households in Nigeria. And that
Mm.
is 40.2 million agricultural households in Nigeria. And that is significant. You know,
Yes, it
talking
is.
about a household of about average of 3 people in a household that are into agriculture. It's really
Mm.
significant. So we, as a nation, it contributes to our GDP. It contributes
Yes.
to employment generation for
Mm.
all the youths, the adults, both gender inclusive. It also contributes to food security. There's
Yes.
there is no way you can as a nation you can be food secure without agriculture. And
True.
once it contributes to food security, it helps to reduce poverty in the land.
Mm.
There is also the industrial outlook to it.
Yeah.
Industries in a nation require agricultural raw materials to become productive. So its
True.
contribution to industrial development cannot be overemphasized.
Yes.
And as a matter of fact, agriculture also helps to unlock the entire value chain of
Mm.
development. It's not
Mm.
just the primary production, it goes right from primary production to logistics, to processing, to
Mm.
packaging, to manufacturing. So it
Yes.
basically unlocks the economy of any nation, particularly in the rural areas. So agriculture
Mm.
plays very significant role in the economy and the resilience of any economy in Nigeria,
Mm.
particularly in Nigeria and Africa as a whole. Thank you.
Fantastic. 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 Thank you so much for that, so succinct answer. So my next question to you, I would also like you to sort of give a bit of context, even with you being the CEO of your organization. Like, guys, you remember in your introduction, I mentioned that he's the CEO of the Greater Aerodo Investment, as well as he's also one of the founding members of AgriTrail as well. AgriTrade is like an agri tech company as well. So that's to tell you how versatile Mr. Ademola is. So my next question, I want you to give us a bit of context with those two organizations that you are in the helm of affairs of. Give us context with regards to this. What are like the biggest challenges that agribusiness face in Nigeria, especially in the given evolving dynamic landscape? So you can sort of share a bit from your own experience and what you've also observed working with other organizations as well.
The biggest challenge with agriculture majorly is coordination.
Okay.
There are a lot of players in the agricultural sectors working in silos.
Oh, I see, I
There
see,
are
I
a
see,
lot of
I
activities
see.
happening in the agricultural sector that are not in the
Mm,
limelight. A lot of people are putting so much energy within their space, but no coordination.
mm,
For,
mm,
for instance, you can hardly get to a state and get a database of farmers in a state. Go to a local
mm,
government. What is the database of farmers in a local government? Can any one of
mm,
them give it to you? So,
mm.
so it's such that there is no coordination. And to that extent, inadequate infrastructure is also a major challenge.
Mm.
The agricultural, we add the agricultural development authorities or programs that
Yeah.
helps to streamline or bring farmers to the center stage through extension support. But in
True.
recent times, extension support has gone down from the government
Mm,
because of inadequate manpower and lack of focus to agriculture.
mm.
So,
Yeah.
so that support that they get in terms of extension support,
Yeah.
input supply, storage
Mm-hmm.
facilities, and the likes, these ones are missing. That's why you see
Mm,
private businesses that go into aggregation how to build
mm.
this infrastructure themselves. So
Yeah.
for us as pioneers of AgriTrail, what we have chosen to do is to put in place a central hub in each local
Mm.
government that will
Wow.
serve as we call it agri-trade center, as a
Mm.
clearinghouse for agricultural trade within a local government, such
Wow.
that first we developed a technology called Agri-Trade Food System Management app, through
Mm.
which we will onboard all the farmers into our platform. They get registered on the platform. They can use the various farm management apps that are available, the fish farming, the poultry farming, and the likes. So with that, they can record various activities and perform all their operations through the app. They have access through the trade center to input. They have
Mm.
access to logistics that takes the inputs, that's the feed, the fertilizer, the seeds, to them
Yeah.
directly in their farms, and
Mm-hmm.
get when they finish producing, they send back the produce to the trade center centrally, and
Wow.
it becomes processed, packaged, and marketed centrally. That is
Mm.
more coordination. And at the trade center, you have all the stakeholders brought together. The
Mm. Wow.
manufacturers of the inputs, the processors are there, the
Mm.
logistics is present there. Even
Mm-hmm.
the agricultural laboratory that can help farmers test their produce, they can do product development, is also centralized there. So with that, you are capturing the entire economy and you are making agriculture a developmental issue.
Mm. Wow. Wow. That's good. That's really good. I think that what you just highlighted was one of the things that I think at the initial when we went to Africa Masterclass that DDK also highlighted. She talked about the fact that um, for us to actually see the things that we need as changes in Africa, there has to be a lot of collaboration. And you touched on that when you said people are doing amazing things, but they are doing it in silos. But imagine people coming together with different kinds of expertise and just to address a common issue and just to achieve a common goal would definitely go a long way.
Definitely, definitely. As a matter of fact, government policies also should also help in that regard. Inconsistency in
Mm,
policies is
mm,
another issue that agriculture is grappling with. Today, they come up with anchor borrowers program. Tomorrow, presently, there is no anchor borrowers program. Tomorrow, they say they are de-risking agriculture through the NASAL. And even NASA itself was at risk at some point where they had to change the management for reasons I don't want to go into. They had to change the management. So if an organization that is supposed to de-risk agriculture is also at risk in itself, it becomes a major challenge. And we've
yeah.
had in the past various interventions. There is the commodity boards of the 70s. There is
Mm,
the DFRIS, Directorate of Food and Rural Infrastructure. There is the Agricultural Landholding Authority. Various
yeah.
interventions. There is the Cooperative Bank for farmers. That's NACRDB that used to be then. But all these interventions are just isolated programs that government does. There is no
Mm,
coordination. It's time to now marry all these programs and make it
mm,
holistic and comprehensive and
yeah.
localized, because
Mm,
agriculture is practiced locally. There's no way
mm,
you can manage it from the national without localizing it. So that's
yeah.
where the agri-trail intervention is looking at a local government approach to it.
Mm, that's really
Thank you.
good. Really, really good. Really good. Thank you so much for that. My next question to you is: how can technology and innovation drive resilience and growth in agribusiness, particularly for smallholder farmers? I know that your company does something in that line because you have highlighted like what you do, what you guys do. But just you can share more about that. Like how can technology and innovation drive resilience and growth in agribusiness, particularly for smallholder farmers?
Technology and innovation majorly is the driving force for agriculture now, and that's why
Mm,
you see a lot of people coming into agriculture because of the technology involvement. You see youths
yes,
now, they can get involved because there are now drones, there are now
yes,
irrigation technology, there are now
yes,
uh, applications that you can use to keep records, unlike
yes.
using sheets of papers and WhatsApp like some do to keep farm records, you know. So
Mm,
this technology is encouraging serious involvement in agriculture and innovative ideas. You have what a lot some of the ag tech companies are doing now,
yeah,
aggregating farmers in various locality, bringing them
yeah,
together to provide support, provide
yeah.
financial inclusion for them, provide
Mm,
best practice, link them up
mm,
with extension support that gives them best practices so that they have the
mm,
know-how to do what they need to do. We also have a situation where financial inclusion now is getting to the farmers because of the
mm,
technological
mm,
innovation. Because now, when they keep
yeah,
proper records, the banks can track what they do and will be able to support them the more. Let me cite a particular instance with that this issue of financial inclusion. But the people doing fish farming, for instance, they
yeah.
have this challenge where bankers find it difficult to support them because when they go on
Mm,
site visit after funding them, they cannot know how many fish is in the water. Then
ah,
they don't have a way of monitoring the records that the farmers keep. So we told them,
mm,
okay, with AgriTrail, you can have access to the farmer's record. You can see, with a third-party extension support, you can see what the farmers are doing, their records. However, if you want to
yeah,
see the fish in the water, there has to be a concerted research on a technology that can allow you to use your phone, for instance,
yeah,
to video a pond and then be able to
yeah,
know the number of fish in that pond.
yeah.
So that's another thing that technology can do to enhance agriculture. Then also improvement in market access. Because of the e-commerce
Mm,
platforms now, people can from their farms sell their produce online and you just deliver to the person location. So with that, agriculture is having a lot of traction. And there are some climate resilient approaches to farming now that you do such that
yeah.
you are ensuring that you are operating climate in a climate smart manner. For instance, all this
Mm,
renewable energy, your pumping machines now,
yes,
there are solar pumps that drives them. There are some that uses
yeah,
biogas plants to drive their operations.
yeah.
So these innovations are helping agriculture to become more prominent. And of course, we need to make these innovations more modular such that farmers can use
Mm.
it in their various domains. Thank you.
Fantastic, fantastic. I like how you've been able to just share more insights on the new innovations and technologies that are prevalent as of now. And there was something you also made mention, like, okay, these technologies needs to be done in a way that farmers can really get access to it. And there was something you made mention of. We kept talking about extension officers, extension officers. I think, do from your experience, I think in recent times, I've not really heard anybody say I'm an extension officer. In recent times, I'll see agri-economists, I'll see agronomists, I'll see animal scientists. We're not having extension officers anymore. I really don't know why. I really don't know why that is. But do you have
Okay,
any insight as to what it is?
Yes, there are extension officers. Incidentally, from my bio, you only mentioned my agribusiness involvement. I worked with Lagos State Ministry of Agric for 16 years.
Oh,
10
wow.
years of
Okay.
10 years of which I was in extension, that's with the ADP, the Agricultural Development Program in
Oh,
Okuoba
wow.
Agege. So I was in
Yeah.
extension for 10 years. I was an extension agent covering farmers within a particular cell. I was a subject master specialist in charge of livestock for the
Oh,
for the far eastern zone of Lagos State, covering
wow.
about 4 or 5 local governments. So
Mm.
um, that exists within the government establishment, but the staff, they
Oh,
are seriously understaffed. And also,
exactly.
some some of these companies that supply their inputs through aggregators, they provide a somewhat
Exactly.
extension support in terms of capacity building, and then training the farmers as to how to use their products, through their marketers, but it's a form of extension support. However,
Mm.
what we are doing in AgriTrail is to dedicate, particularly dedicate an extension officer to a group of 50, 60 farmers, depending on how clustered they are, so that they can regularly visit them at
Mm.
least once in 2 weeks, to be able to give them all the support in terms of do their farm recording on the app for those that are
Mm-hmm.
not tech savvy, in terms of giving them new innovations, in terms of guiding them through best practices. So this actually exists, but it's not enough. It's far from being enough. That's the much I
Mm.
can say about extension services.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you for shedding more light on that. Okay. Earlier on, you spoke about government policies that, in a way, it hasn't been so favorable to agriculture. In knowing fully well that there could be much more harmonization with the various agencies and just a lot of collaborations. So my next question is it's geared towards policies. What policy changes or government interventions do you think are essential to strengthen the agricultural sector and enable agribusiness success?
First, the like I said earlier, government should really focus on coordination. Now, there is no point fractionalizing support from different
Mm,
platforms. If, for instance, in
mm.
Nigeria, we have what we call Bank of Agriculture,
Yes, we do.
how far-reaching is Bank of Agriculture? At some point, the Nassau Microfinance Bank came to every locality where there is post office to support SMEs, and of
Mm,
course, farmers are supposed to also benefit from that. But I challenge everybody to say that microfinance of those microfinance banks, the way they charge their interest, how supportive is that finance to agriculture? Agriculture is a long-term
mm,
business. It's a very risky business. And it's not something that you can borrow a loan and say, after 1 month, you start paying back, or after 2 months, you start paying back. Agriculture requires patient capital. So government should actually dedicate a bank or a financial institution that would really provide patient capital to farmers. That is one. Secondly,
mm,
is the fact that these credits should be done through a central coordination body, like
mm,
the trade center hub we are talking about, such that not the money that will get to the farmers, it is the inputs that
mm.
will get to the farmers. The
Oh,
government will
okay.
provide the credit, it will be used to assess the inputs and given to the
Mm,
farmers, and the working capital given to them. That is less than 20% of the funding they need. So when you give them that working capital, they can collect the input and produce, and then you have central offtake. I think that's basically what the various special agro-industrial processing zones that the African Development Bank is doing now. I think they are doing that in about 8 states in Nigeria now. In Kano, Kaduna, Kwara, Ogun, Oyo, I think Imo, Cross River, and then the FCT. So what that agro-industrial hub does is to help ensure that all the produce of the farmers comes into that hub eventually, based on the comparative advantage of course of the states. And again, the Lagos State government is doing something good in that direction. The Lagos State government is building the food system, food security systems and logistic hub in Ekpe in Lagos State, and it promises to be one of the largest hubs in Africa. So when it's fully built, but there is still a gap between the farmers and that hub, and that is the gap that Trade Center is trying to cover, because you need someone to coordinate the farmers, aggregate, centrally give them the inputs, aggregate the produce, and then feed the food security and logistic hub with those processed or fresh inputs, so that it can now be aggregated centrally at that hub, and it becomes an export or a regional market distribution outlet, basically. So those are the kind of things that government can do to ensure that the agriculture becomes a mainstay. Of course, subsidy in terms of the input, it will go a long way. The loans should also be in single digits. It shouldn't be anything above 9% at all. Infrastructure development, like I said, cannot be overemphasized, and stable policy. Their policies must be consistent, holistic, consistent, and sustainable. Not that each successive government will come in and just create a new policy and everybody will run to that policy. The next moment another policy comes in, everybody moves. It doesn't allow for sustainability. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for shedding more light on that. Speaking of finance, when you talked about access to loans and ensuring that the interest rate shouldn't be more than a single digit. So my next question is geared towards financing. It says access to funding is a major challenge for many agribusiness founders. So what strategies or resources would you recommend to bridge this gap? Access to finance, is a major challenge. But what strategies or resources would you recommend to bridge this gap effectively?
Well, there are several strategies that can be used to bridge the gap in terms of access to finance. The first is the fact that we must coordinate centrally. We must coordinate centrally so that we can do things with economy of scale in mind. When we coordinate centrally, you see, for instance, government will say farmers should be in cooperative, but most of these cooperatives are not efficiently managed. I give you a typical example of part of the reasons why, the ways how farmers can harness funding with proper coordination. My farm, the fish farm, is in an agri cluster, and the agri cluster is such that about well over 100 farmers, there, and everybody does his own thing. Goes to buy his own inputs separately. This one buys separately. They sell separately, and all that. Whereas I did a survey at the central gate that goes into that community, that farming agricultural community. We are from the central gate. If we are able to pull resources together and buy centrally all
Yeah.
the feed, the fertilizer that we need. Now, at that central gate, we could take a 50 naira on every bag of feed, every bag of fertilizer. And at the end of the day, a 5 million is generated. I mean, 5 million naira is generated on a monthly
Wow.
basis from
Wow.
that 50 naira on every. Don't forget that because we are pulling together, we are
Most
buying
of
at
it
a very
in bulk.
good price. Now,
Yeah.
removing 50 naira helps us to now provide infrastructure. In that community, we don't even have electricity. We approached the electricity authority, and they did a survey and gave us a bill of 135 million. Now, 135 million now, up till date, we are still waiting for government to come and intervene. If we had pulled our
Wow.
resources together, 5 million a month, in less than 2 years, thereabout, we will have done electricity by ourselves. So that is the power
Yes.
of coming together, cooperating to take advantage of economy of scale. Government can provide that enabling environment for farmers to come together and operate as then there can be also, of course, recently there has always been this issue of tax reform is ongoing, and mostly you see farmers being exempted from paying tax, especially smallholder farmers that are not up to 25 million in revenue, you know. So that also helps in ensuring that farmers have good access to money and they are not overtaxed. The other area is the fact that farmers can also come together to do a sort of venture capital investment into their businesses, because
Yeah.
venture capitalists look for something big to invest in.
Yes. True.
If farmers now come together as a consortium,
Yeah.
then they can speak to venture capitalists to partner with them and invest in what they do. So that's
Yes.
another way to go about it. There's also the crowdfunding approach that you can also adopt to ensure that you fund farming operations. So a lot of these approaches are available. It's just the fact that farmers operate in isolation, it doesn't give them that opportunity. Currently there is a grant by, I think, MasterCard to fund farmers, and they are even
Yeah.
encouraging various farms to come together, 2-3 farms to come
Yeah.
together and harness that opportunity. But you discover that by the time you want to partner, some of those other farms don't have proper record that could enable you put a proper front to these funders for them to fund this farming. And of course, most of this farming funding, they want to tie it to processing facilities or off-takers. And not many processors are at that scale to be able to guarantee offtake from farmers. So a
Yes.
lot of effort needs to be put into value addition, so that when farmers
Yeah.
produce, there is already an offtake market. To that extent,
Yeah.
value is added, and the shelf life of
Yeah.
the produce becomes more durable. And then
Yeah.
the farmers can just continue to produce while the processors market the processed products. So those are the areas where I think interventions for getting funding can happen.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing more light on that. There's something you just mentioned that I also sort of want you to throw more light into, and it's really related to the next question. One of the things you highlighted in that last question you answered is the fact that improper records. With improper records, people are not able to sort of access fundings because they have to have something that they can show to the bank. Or with improper records, people are not able to maybe partner and then see, okay, what's your strengths economically and all that. My next question now is, with the global market constantly shifting, how can Nigerian agro businesses position themselves to remain competitive and sustainable? I would say that proper record keeping is one of them, from what you've said. But what are the other things that uh, agro business can position themselves to remain competitive and sustainable?
Well, globally, when it comes to global trade, um, every nation must look at its balance of trade. For
Mm,
instance, I remember one of the senators was asking the Minister of Trade and Investments, in all of the funding they give to them and the collaborations they have with partnership we have with various countries, what is the balance of trade? And the minister couldn't answer. And that tells you to the extent to which Nigeria does not monitor these things. Now you are doing
mm,
agriculture and you are partnering with nations to develop your agriculture. What is the balance? The cocoa you send out, what is the value you are getting? The country you are sending it to, what is the value they are getting when they turn it to chocolate? So
mm,
we must, the bottom line is we must now begin to consciously add value to what we produce before exporting.
mm.
That is when
Wow.
you can begin to talk about balance of trade. The areas where you can produce in large quantities, like the grains, the wheat and the likes,
Yeah.
of course, those ones you can trade internationally once you're able to produce massively. But where value needs to be added, today, you need to do a value addition. Today, we
Yes.
see a landmark structure, cocoa house.
Mm,
Before, we used to see granite pyramids in the north. Where are
yes,
they?
yes, yes.
The textile industry from cotton, where are they? I
Mm,
know I know the textile industry was not one of the vibrant industries of the old, but they are nowhere to be found today. But
mm.
with value addition, you will be developing not just the agricultural value chain, but you also be developing the hand and craft industry. Take for instance
Mm,
the the plantain,
yeah,
the stem of the plantain. It's a
yes,
fiber product that can be used to
yes,
do mats, foot mats, different kind of
yeah,
fiber products that handcrafts can be done from it. But how many people are doing handcrafts? Those are the things that value addition can byproduct of value addition can give to you. There's also
wow.
you need to also standardize our operations. International
Mm,
standard is
nice.
part of the challenge why farmers cannot export. There is no
Yeah,
there is no farm
yes,
certification. There is no traceability. For us,
yeah,
that's part of what we have factored in our own technology. The farm management, food system management app is going to be
yeah.
traceable right from the farmers to the retailers,
Mm,
because we at any point when we process the product and brand it agri-trade, there is going to be a code that anybody can scan, and you can know which farmer produces this product,
yeah,
which
yeah.
transporter transported it, which processor processed it. That's the traceability we are talking about, so that when there are
Mm,
issues, you can know where the problem came from. So we need to begin to standardize, certify our farming operations, begin to ensure that it has traceability so that it can compete at the international level. We need to include innovation into what we do, ensure that we bring in new technology that can help us scale agriculture massively.
Yeah.
We also need to take advantage of the regional trades that are available to us through the continental African Trade Initiative by the AU. So a lot of these initiatives are available, but for instance, when we want to export agricultural produce at the various borders, you see a lot of checks, agencies
Yeah.
making revenue, getting revenue because you want to export. And by the time you now export, your product cannot no longer trade competitively with
Yeah.
the in the regional market. So those are part of the challenges. So we need to unbundle those agencies such that trade can flow smoothly. So with that, Nigeria can take advantage of the global markets that are available for various products. Trade
Yeah.
agreements needs to be signed also. And of course, we must build a climate resilient agricultural economy that is sustainable so that it's not a one-time thing. This year we are able to supply produce internationally. Next year we don't have to supply. It shouldn't be like that. We must find a way to always produce and be sustainable in our production. And that is when we can meet international market demand. Thank you.
Fantastic, fantastic. Speaking of sustainability, my next question is towards that angle. And the question is, how can agribusiness how can agribusiness adapt to climate change and build resilience against environmental or economic shock?
It starts with our practices. Agricultural practices, there is what you call best agricultural
Yeah.
practices. So
Yes.
if we begin to practice agriculture in a sustainable way that enables us to conserve water, for instance, you are planting crops, you provide mulching materials that retains water in the soil, so you don't have to use too much water on your crops, because when you water it for a while, you can leave it because there is a mulch that is holding up the moisture, and you don't have to water every day. There are other practices like consciously planting trees on your farm to ensure that to ensure afforestation.
Yes.
Majority of the farms are just vast lands, and that in itself hinders prevents some practices that allows for climate smart agriculture.
Yeah.
So we need to consciously begin to look at such practices in our environmental impact. For instance, how we manage our waste is another
Yeah.
area to ensure that we are climate smart. In the way we handle our produce. For instance, it must be done in such a way that we handle it with hygiene in mind. Not that after producing, you now transfer diseases to farmers. And even in the practice, some of the herbicides that we use that
Yeah.
damages the soil, sometimes we even use insecticides on the plant, and then without a withdrawal period, we harvest and sell to the market. And those are some of the practices that are not good that are not good agricultural practices that we can improve upon to ensure that our operations are environmentally friendly, they are food secure, and they are climate resistant.
Fantastic. So my next question now is, how can agro businesses foster strong stakeholder collaborations to drive shared success and economic growth in the sector. How can agro businesses foster strong stakeholder collaborations to drive shared success and economic growth in the sector?
That's a major point that needs to be driven seriously. Honestly, stakeholder collaboration in agriculture is a major mind shift that we need now, in the sense
Okay.
that without collaboration, there cannot be coordination.
Yeah.
Now, for the livestock industry, a lot of people, sometimes when people grow maize, they just grow it and they trade maize internationally. Some they move it out of the country. But how many people is monitoring how many maize the livestock industry in Nigeria needs? Do we know?
Yeah. Mm.
Now, to be able to make provision for the livestock industry and say, after this, the remaining can then be
And
exported.
export. Yeah.
So it goes with a lot of planning. So
Mm.
with our food system management app, for instance, you know the capacity of the farmers on the platform. You know how many people are producing maize. You know how many people are producing fish. How many people are. So you can actually plan, do a national planning, do a local government planning, do a state
Mm.
planning for your agricultural production based on the consumption of your people. Today, Lagos will tell you, as at the last count, Lagos kills 6 million cattle in a month. So
Mm.
the 6 million cattle, where does it come from?
Mm.
They, there is a number of sheep and goat that also goes to the slaughter through the various
Mm.
mama put outlets where they kill goats.
Mm.
How many of them are produced in Lagos? How many of them are
Mm.
brought and fattened in Lagos? So
Yeah.
this helps in proper planning.
Yes.
So for me, I think collaboration is more than necessary now to be able
Yeah.
to ensure that we plan our production properly, particularly in local economies, local governments that are agrarian economies.
Mm.
They complain that they are not generating revenue, but yet
Mm.
they don't invest in the agricultural sector of their local government. So
Mm.
how do they expect to generate revenue? It's when agricultural there is development in agriculture and farmers are able to generate revenue, then they can also pay various tax in the market when they go to sell. There are tickets they pay to the local government for even bringing
Yeah.
their goods to the market. So without produce to take to the market, where does the local government generate revenue? So this coordination has to be all inclusive. Private sector, majorly private sector driven, government involvement, corporate entities, financial institutions, everybody be on the table. And something like AgriTrail is a very veritable platform for that to happen at a local
Yeah.
government level, where every stakeholder is brought on board and coordination is central and everybody has value for their efforts.
Fantastic. Speaking of Agri-Trail, I would like you to share a bit as regards that story. Like, what sort of inspired you and your team to work on that? I know that you worked on a lot of initiative in the course of your career as a agro-business strategist and specialist. But what in particular inspired that move for Agro-Business Trail? And
That's a very, okay.
before you answer, just help the people within the that will watch the lives and people that are already streaming on with us, help them understand what agro business trail is for context sake. Then proceed.
Okay. AgriTrail is a food system solution that has been initiated by Greater Iredo Investments Limited, which is
Okay.
the name of the company,
Yes.
to help smallholder farmers and agribusinesses solve the problem of productivity, the problem of profitability, the problem of
Mm.
sustainability, and
Wow.
that of scalability. Now,
Mm.
what AgriTrail offers is holistic in the sense
Yeah.
that it's trailing the farming operations from input supply to,
Mm.
to
Mm.
farmers' production, to logistics, to offtake marketing, and then to supply to the wholesale and retail market. That's what AgriTrail is trailing through the
Mm.
technology and through the infrastructure, localized infrastructure that is put in place. Now, how did we come about this? That's a very interesting story because incidentally, I was privileged to manage a Shanghai farm in
Yeah.
one of, the Shanghai is an international brand. So they set up this farm in
Yes, it
Iwo,
is.
Osun State. So when they were to hand over to the owners of the farm after 3 years contract of build, operate, and transfer, so I was invited to take over from them. And I got there, I took over, and I saw a system that was doing production, that was doing processing, and that was
Yes.
even doing marketing, central marketing.
Yes.
So it's such that you have all the value chain, like fish, poultry, piggery,
Yes.
um, uh, fish, different value chain,
Yeah.
including oil palm processing and the likes.
Processing. Yes. Yes.
So we met that, and of course, the records, form of record keepings were manual, and then it's centrally managed. And first, I had to, of course, the mandate was to rebrand the company. We rebranded, and then it was not, we met a company that was running at a loss. So we had to now transform it and make it to become profitable. So with that experience, incidentally, my daughter was with me, who is a tech-savvy person, was with me at that, stays in the quarters with me there. So with that experience, we felt we needed to do something in this regard. One thing we noticed
Yeah.
first with that Shanghai farm was the fact that procurement was done centrally. For all the
Mm.
various value chains, procurement
Yes.
was single, done centrally through one source. That was very helpful in the sense that they buy everything that the farm needs centrally. Secondly, irrespective of the units. Secondly, logistics was central. From every
Mm.
unit, you have only one logistics manager who deploys his logistics to bring the produce from the various units after production to the sales point. Now, the sales was also central.
Mm.
The sales was also central. There are different units, poultry units, piggery units. The
Yeah.
sales
Poultry.
was also
Yes.
central.
Yes.
So with sales central, logistics central, procurement central, it becomes easier to manage.
Yeah.
And we said to ourselves, why can't we do that at the local level, local government level, such
Mm.
that input supply is central,
Yeah.
production is done by the farmers and their various locality. You don't need to move farmers from one place to the other on the guise of doing a Greek scheme and relocating
Yeah.
farmers from their natural homes and where they have land. So, but getting the produce from them and then aggregating it centrally, marketing it centrally with just one single brand. Now, what
Mm.
that does is this. With one single brand, instead of all the farmers adding value to their produce and paying for certification with NAFDAC, you know how many farmers
Mm.
in the local government? You know how many certificates will be flying in the local government? Now
Yeah.
bringing everything together in one hub and just one certification for fish, canned,
Over,
for
yeah.
instance, one
Yes.
certification for frozen fish. So those
Mm.
are the things that motivated us to now design AgriCrail and do it such that all the farmers that are onboarded on our platform are in a cooperative. And with that
Yeah.
cooperative, they can access credit
Yes.
because they do savings in the cooperative. They can also access credit facilities through the cooperative.
Mm-hmm.
So the cooperative partners with financial institutions and ensures that the on lend to its members, and the funds is not released to the farmers, but inputs are supplied from the trade center in form of credit to the farmers. So that's how we came about the initiative. And believe you me, that's what we need. With government support, that model would synchronize agricultural development in a way that has never been seen before in Nigeria.
Fantastic. Very, very profound. Very profound. It's just good to know that you and your beloved daughter were just able to say, okay, this is something that we need to implement here. And at the local level, once we are able to provide this solution at the local level, definitely we'll be able to also scale it up. And that's what technology helps us with, to be able to just amplify solutions, to be able to just say, okay, how can we better? And thank you for seeing the need of that and then taking the lead to create that platform.
Thank
So
you.
my next question now is around youth. And like I said, I'm very happy that your daughter, your beloved daughter, Busola, is also involved in agriculture with you, just the same way that you are passionate about agriculture. So my next question is around youth, and the question is, how what steps can be taken to encourage the Nigerian youth or the African youth to view agriculture as a viable and exciting career path? Maybe because most people think of agriculture, when they just think of agriculture, they think of it on a subsistence level, which is just two cutlass, hoe, and all that. But in your own perspective, what do you think can be done to encourage the average Nigerian youth to view agriculture as a viable career path?
First, we really have to rebrand agriculture. We,
Mm,
in the past, because it's an age-long industry.
profession. Yeah,
You see a lot of old men, women involved in agriculture, but the trends,
yeah,
the dynamics are changing now, and we need to
yeah,
thoroughly, consciously rebrand agriculture as a modern and tech-driven industry. And the moment
yes,
we do that, you see a lot of youths coming in and getting involved.
mm,
Already there are a lot of youths doing things in that direction, such that
yes,
providing tech support in terms of
yes,
farm management apps that are being created. You see
yeah,
drone services.
yeah,
You see IoT sensors
yes,
for monitoring agricultural operations. So we also need to revamp our curriculum in the various
mm,
institutions, such that
yes,
agriculture with technology can be innovation and technology can be at the forefront of agricultural curriculum. It's
mm,
very, very important, such that you find out that in an institution where you are supposed to be studying agriculture and you are doing maybe animal production, for instance, and there are no livestock.
yeah,
Everything you are being taught is theoretical. How do you
theoretical.
relate? How do you relate with that? Those are the
Mm,
challenges. Agriculture is not a theoretical business. is a practical business.
Yeah.
So our curriculum
Hands
should
on.
encourage hands-on
Yes.
practice. One of the things that made
Yes, it
me,
is.
I think, that molded me agriculture-wise, apart from the fact that the passion was in it, was the fact that when I was in secondary school, my agriculture
Yeah.
teacher told us to bring money. We contributed, and we bought yams, we bought seeds of carrots, and
Mm,
planted. We bought chicken, laying beds, as small as they are, they hold. We bought them, built a house for
yeah.
them, nurtured them from day hold to point of lay, and they started laying.
Mm,
So that experience was so practical to me right from secondary school. And
wow.
it was one of the things that shaped my interest in agriculture, that made me enter School of Agriculture then. So I think it's important that we must put agriculture at the forefront of our educational system right from primary, secondary level. We must
Yeah.
also we must also provide access to funding, like we said before, and incentives that
Yeah.
can make people go into agriculture. We must
Yes.
provide access to funding, patient fund, and
Yeah.
incentives that can make people to go into agriculture. We must also be able to um, provide mentorship for these youths. It's one thing to say youth should get
Yes.
involved. From my experience and my involvement with my daughter in this project, despite the enthusiasm and the passion, there is this experience, that there is this missing link between experience and passion that
True.
cannot be covered. So
Yes.
while I bring years of experience, she's coming in with passion and technology, and
Yes.
marrying it together, we could produce something meaningful. That same
Yes.
way, we should not just say the youths are in agriculture, therefore all the adults should just stay away. No, it has to be a blend before they
Mm,
before they now gradually take over as time goes on. But there must be the position of experience. Let me also
yeah.
emphasize that with what we used to do then when I was in extension. When we go to meet farmers on the field, visiting them, we don't just
Yeah.
go and say, this, we are bringing new innovations. We also take innovations from the farmers. We call it indigenous knowledge. What have they been doing
Mm,
to surmount
yeah.
those challenges in the past? And when they
Yes.
tell us and they do it and it works, we take that also as
Yes.
indigenous knowledge, and we also spread that information as extension officer.
Mm,
So we don't just take our own and give to them and force it down their throat. No, we listen to them. What have you been doing
yeah.
that is working for you? When they share it with
Mm,
us, we also share it with other farmers that have not been doing so. So that's how you use experience and innovation to move agric forward. So it's not just the youth.
mm,
The youth are coming in, but they must be mentored by the older ones
mm,
to
mm.
enhance agriculture with technology and innovation.
Fantastic, fantastic. I like how you married both points together. So emphasizing that there's a place of the passion and the drive and innovation that the youths bring in, but there's also that place of expertise and wisdom that the older persons will bring in form of mentorship. And once we put those two things together, we are definitely unstoppable within the sector. Thank you so much for sharing that. And this will be my final question for you today. Uh, can you share your story of resilience as an agro business CEO? Because I know that doing regular business in Nigeria is a very awesome thing. Let's put it that way. It's challenging, right? That's what I mean by awesome. Let
Okay.
alone doing agriculture in itself, that is also challenging. So, can you share your story of resilience as an agribusiness CEO in Nigeria, and how you have, sort of adapted to this ever changing economy, and the lessons you've learned thus far on your journey? It's like a three in one question, but
Okay. Um, Story of resilience. There are so many stories of resilience. Honestly, farmers and people in the agricultural industry, particularly primary production, are the most resilient set of people on earth, honestly,
Yes.
because you put your hard-earned resources, you put it in the
Yes.
soil, you put it in the soil, not knowing what will become of it after months,
Mm,
and you just have faith that something good will come out of it, and suddenly,
mm.
from nowhere, flood comes in. From
Woo!
nowhere, disease outbreak comes in. A farmer that plants rice, for
Yeah.
instance, on 7 acres, and once
Mm,
after laboring and it was nearing harvest, suddenly birds came and swept on everything and nothing to harvest. How do you reconcile that?
mm,
Or is it the farmer that
mm,
produces fish, that produces fish,
mm.
and by the time he's harvesting, people comes to buy, and suddenly after scaling your 2 tons of fish and loaded in the vehicle, and just doing the last batch of scaling, you discover that there is a magnet under your scale that has circumvented your scale all the while.
Mm.
And that
Woo!
simply means that you have sold all those fishes at a loss because
Yes.
somebody somewhere has circumvented the scale that you were using. So those are some of the challenges that are really unthinkable. Or is it
Mm.
the challenge of if, even land issues,
Yeah.
when you begin to, because the land can be a major issue. You say lease the land to me, suddenly the person sells, or suddenly you buy a land, litigation comes in and you are in court,
Mm.
injunction comes and you are not able to do anything. Some of these challenges hinder agriculture a lot. So for me,
Mm.
in all of this, some of the ways we've tried to build resilience is to re-strategize. I remember
Yeah.
when we used to patronize a particular company that supplies us fish feed, and unknown to us, they changed their formula because of economic reasons, or whether they are processing issues or thereabout. By the time we fed the fish and the fish was ready for harvest, we discovered that there are a lot of fat deposits on the fish. When we and
Woo!
no, and when we were supposed to smoke and or
Mm.
scale to sell live, when we scale, because of the fat deposits, they are not heavy, so we
Mm.
are selling at a loss. When we smoke, when we try to oven dry it,
Shrink,
they are
shrinks it.
fry they are frying rather than drying, because of the
Mm.
heat. It's frying rather than drying. So that becomes
Mm.
an issue. So we had to find a way to quickly prepare another set of feed, and feed them for another 1 month before we could now sell, because to make them now become the kind of product that we can smoke or scale to
Yeah.
sell. So those
Mm.
are some of the ways. Then sometimes you may just diversify.
Yeah.
Either you do backward integration. You see that, okay, the cost of producing table size fish, for instance, may be high because of the high cost of feed. You can now begin to look at producing fingerlings, go to the
Yeah.
hatchery level, so that one is not as expensive at the grow out. So leave the grow
Yeah.
out for those that can afford that, and then you produce the fingerlings and sell to them. Then you can look at logistics. At some point, I had to divert to agribusiness logistics, helping
Mm.
people carry their feed from the various warehouse to their farms and the likes. So just diversify to ensure that you are sustainable. Your income level stream is not affected. Just
Yeah.
farmers do a lot of a lot of strategizing and re-strategizing. Once one
Mm.
area is closed, they look for the next alternative, value addition, to see they may not be able to produce, they can buy from their friends who produce, add value, then go and sell. So these are some of the ways that farmers have been able to be resilient in agriculture. You are doing one crop production, it's not working, you move to another type of crop production so that you can continue at least farming.
Yeah, fantastic, fantastic. It's just been a beautiful journey. From what you've just shared, it seems like you have a handful of experience, expertise, knowledge, and wisdom, and it's very evident in even the way you just answered these questions that I have asked. But my final question, which you didn't touch on, which is, what are the lessons that on this your journey as an agro
Okay.
business specialist and strategist? What are some of the outstanding lessons you've learned on this journey so far that you feel like anybody listening to us today wanting to come into the sector that they can sort of hold on to?
Okay. For the lessons are very, very, very enormous. But
Yeah,
I'll put it this way. You see, for you to venture into agribusiness in the first place, you must zero your mind that you want to do business. And that's
yeah,
why the name agribusiness, because it's no longer a hobby, it should be business. And if it's
yeah,
business, all the elements of business must come to play: land,
yes,
labor, capital, um, nearness to raw materials, nearness to all those factors of
yeah,
production. You must consider them properly. If you want to do fish, you must consider where water is, because you can't do fish without water. You want to do crop farming, you
mm,
must consider a very arable land that can sustain the kind of crops you want to cultivate.
yeah,
You don't want to do sorghum, for instance, and say you want to do sorghum in Lagos. How is that sustainable? Because of the weather. So you must do practice agriculture as a business. Then, secondly,
mm,
you must collaborate. You need to network as a
mm,
farmer, because if you
yes,
don't network, there are certain things that you can leverage on from your fellow farmers in terms of input
mm,
purchase, buying input. You can come
yeah,
together and buy in bulk and share what you bought. You can come together
yeah,
in managing your waste. You can come together in. So the lessons are: if you want to go far, you don't go alone. You don't go
yeah,
alone. You ensure that you network, and and of course you must keep proper record. Proper record is very important, especially if you want to scale and grow, because nobody will fund you, for instance, if you don't have proper record to present that you are doing well. How much
mm,
was your profit the last month? In the last 6 months, what have you been doing? Has your revenue trend been like? They want to see, so that they can know if you are growing, or you are not growing, or you are just doing it as a hobby. So you must keep proper records and proper planning of your farm. You want to go into a business, you must plan properly. Have a business plan, have a strategic plan, do your feasibility study properly. Be sure that that area you want to do farming is feasible for the kind of farming you want to do. And there is markets,
yeah,
there is logistics, there is all the input supply resources that you need, so that you don't finish farming and start looking for markets. You must ensure that
mm,
these things are all already in place before you venture. And when you venture, ensure that you commit it to faith. Whatever
mm,
whatever faith you have, whether it's in God or in Allah. Make sure you commit it to your faith and just follow it with your heart. And I believe at the end of the day, because you have sown, definitely you must reap. Definitely you
Mm.
must reap. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you so much, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you. It's been an amazing, I would say, it's been an amazing an hour 15 minutes. Thank
Okay.
you so much for your time. I remember when
Thank
I
you.
invited you, I said, "I just going to be 45 minutes to 1 hour," and we've gone past the ideal mark time. But thank you so much for this. For anyone that wants to sort of contact your service, because for most of the things that we talked about today, I know that these are the things that you do, especially for agro business strategy, business planning, consultations, setting up fishery farms and things like that. For anyone that wants to contact you for your service, how best can they connect with you, sir?
Okay. Well, through my phone number, 080
Okay.
730, or through my email, Prince
Okay.
OGA, Prince Oga, Prince OGA at gmail.com. Of course, I'm on LinkedIn, Gani Ademola Okewo on
Yeah.
LinkedIn. You can reach me through LinkedIn. That's basically it. My phone number, my email, and my LinkedIn.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for coming on board with us. And please, our dear listeners, for every single person that is interested in agriculture and you need level of expertise, guidance within the Nigerian context, trust me, Mr. Ademola is your go-to person. Like, trust me, he knows the who is who in agriculture as regards practicality, and he will definitely guide you on that path. I can tell you that for free. He will definitely guide you on that path. And so, thank you everyone for joining us today. And please do follow the channel, like, subscribe, so that you're able to just get notifications as we bring on board other agro business experts and founders within Nigeria and also within Africa. With that being said, thank you once again. Do have a lovely afternoon. Have a lovely day.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir.